Oscar Pistorius will know his fate today. He'll be sentenced at the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria. eNCA will be bringing you live coverage of that sentencing. Our reporter Karyn Maughan this morning is outside the court, while Liranzu Themba is in Waterkloof, also in Pretoria, outside the house of Oscar Pistorius' uncle. Let's start first outside the court this morning with Karyn Maughan. Karyn, it is indeed a big day. We'll find out today whether or not Judge Thokozile Masipa will send Oscar Pistorius to jail for 15 years for murder.
Well, Dan, we're very lucky to have legal expert Ulrich Roux here to discuss that very same question with us. Ulrich, we know that the Minimum Sentence Act states a minimum 15-year sentence for this kind of offence. But is Oscar Pistorius the kind of person who would get 15 years behind bars?
Well, remember that our Act states clearly that a minimum sentence of 15 years must be applied unless the convicted person can show substantial and compelling circumstances. Now, what does that entail is everyone's question. And the fact that Oscar has already served 1 year in prison, he's already spent almost a year under house arrest, will definitely be taken into consideration. But then also his personal circumstances, the fact that he is disabled, the fact that he has his entire life he's had this disability will definitely come into play and will have to be something that the judge considers. I think one thing that we must remember as well, he was initially convicted of culpable homicide. That was, of course, overturned to murder dolus eventualis, in other words, with indirect intent. And the argument is that that is not as far removed from culpable homicide as the people would like to believe and as the state would like the court to believe. So I think that is definitely a consideration that will have to be taken into account by Judge Masipa. Also, with the Supreme Court of Appeal handed down judgment, they made it clear that the facts of the matter don't change the way that it was interpreted. It was just a legal question which was interpreted incorrectly. So in other words, they found that Oscar Pistorius did not act with hate or malice or vengeance when he killed Reeva Steenkamp. He in fact had indirect intent. And that, in my opinion, is a substantial and compelling circumstance.
Barry Roux, Oscar Pistorius' advocate, at pains to say that this was not a scenario where, as you've just pointed out, Oscar Pistorius had direct intent to kill Reeva Steenkamp and went out on some ginormous murderous rage. But that doesn't seem to be the public perception out there. The public perception still seems to be this was a direct intent kind of killing. And a lot of what Barry Roux was arguing in court seemed to be more directed at public perception than it was at the judge.
Yes, indeed, and I think the important fact that you touched on there is that the court is there to serve the public interest. It's not there to take the public perception into consideration and what the public opinion is. The three main barriers that we need to consider when sentencing is the personal circumstances, the seriousness of the offence, and then the interests of society. And I think that Karyn Maughan countered that as well by having Barry Steenkamp testify, by getting that emotional and raw testimony on record to show, well, if you say that the public perception is this, just look at the effect that this crime has had on this family and on the public as a whole. And remember that the court must send out a clear and distinct message to society in order to try and deter them from acting in a similar fashion in future.
But how difficult is it going to be for this judge? Because she knows whatever her personal views may be on this matter and whatever evaluation she may make of Pistorius' circumstances, she knows that this is a state legal team that has absolutely no problem with taking a decision on appeal. And if they feel it's shockingly inappropriate, they will go to the SCA, where Oscar Pistorius certainly may face a far tougher audience.
Yes, definitely, and I think that will definitely be hanging in the back of her mind. Remember that her initial conviction was taken on appeal. The defence will also be able to take on appeal if she does hand down too harsh a sentence. So definitely that will be playing in the back of her mind, and certainly sentencing is a very difficult thing for a court to do. It is up to the court's discretion. There's no real fact of law that needs to be taken into consideration, so she's going to have to ensure that she strikes that balance between what is a proper message being sent out to society, considering Oscar's personal circumstances, and then also blending that with a measure of mercy and making sure that the sentence being handed down is a proper one, having the proper necessary deterring effect on society.
Thank you very much, Ulrich Roux. Of course, that was Ulrich Roux, defence attorney, giving us some insight into the kind of legal parameters the judge will have to put in place when she delivers her ruling. Certainly one wouldn't want to be in her shoes this morning. She's already been overturned on appeal, and she knows that the court of public opinion, the controversy around this case, certainly will not abate in the coming days.